Listen carefully. The most dangerous moment in any power dynamic is when you emotionally disappear. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, completely. The second you stop seeking validation, reactions, or closure, people begin to panic because control requires access, and access requires your emotional presence. Machiavelli knew this truth long before modern psychology confirmed it. Attachment makes you predictable. Detachment makes you sovereign. You are not meant to be understood. You are meant to be unreadable. When you detach, you don't chase, you don't explain, you don't correct perceptions. You let others project, assume, and unravel on their own. That is cold power. Masculine stoicism is not silence for weakness. It is silence as strategy. You feel everything, yet reveal nothing. And the less you react, the more others expose themselves trying to provoke you. This is where dominance shifts. This is where you become untouchable. If this resonates, comment this now and lock it in. I am unreachable. Number 1. Detachment as a weapon. Detachment is not indifference. Indifference is careless. Detachment is calculated. It is the conscious removal of your emotional signature from situations where others expect leverage over you. The average man reacts automatically. Tone triggers him, disrespect hooks him, uncertainty weakens him. You will not be average. You will learn the art of delayed response, the power of emotional absence, the discipline of letting silence do the work your ego once did. When you detach, you stop feeding people information about what affects you, and information is currency. Every reaction you give away is a receipt of control handed to someone else. Machiavelli warned against this exact mistake. Never reveal the mechanisms of your inner world, because once known, they will be exploited. So you begin starving the world of access to your reactions. Watch what happens when you pull back. People accustomed to your availability grow uneasy. Those who relied on your emotional labor grow resentful. Those who manipulated you through guilt, approval, or chaos lose their grip. They escalate. They test boundaries. They create drama to pull you back into orbit. This is the phase most men fail, because withdrawal feels uncomfortable before it feels powerful. But discomfort is the tax of transformation. Masculine stoicism demands you endure this phase without explanation. No speeches, no closure, no emotional essays. Silence is not avoidance here, it is assertion. You are teaching the world a new rule. Access to you is earned, not assumed. Dark psychology reveals a brutal truth. People value what they cannot predict or control. The moment you become emotionally self-contained, you disrupt expectations. You stop being reactive fuel and become an unpredictable force. This unpredictability creates tension. Tension creates attention. Attention restores leverage. You are no longer trying to be understood. You are allowing yourself to be observed. And observation without access drives people insane. They replay conversations. They analyze your tone. They question their position. Meanwhile, you remain centered, unmoved, watching patterns emerge. This is cold power psychology in motion. You don't confront manipulation. You outgrow it. Understand this clearly. Detachment is not emotional numbness. You still feel anger, desire, disappointment. The difference is that you process it internally instead of exporting it to the world. You stop leaking emotions where they can be weaponized. You become selective, strategic, calm under pressure. When others lose control, raise their voice, rush decisions, or overshare, you slow down. You speak less. You choose words like a blade, precise, minimal, final. This contrast alone shifts dynamics. The man who can remain composed while others unravel automatically assumes dominance, not because he demands it, but because his presence commands it. This is why detachment terrifies people. It exposes their dependency. It mirrors their insecurity back at them, and insecurity always tries to reclaim control. They may label you cold, arrogant, changed. Let them. Labels are the language of those who lost influence. Machiavelli never warned against being disliked. He warned against being weak. And weakness begins the moment you let others dictate your emotional rhythm. You are here to set your own tempo, your own pace, your own rules. Pause here and mark this shift. If you understand that detachment is not withdrawal, but elevation, comment this phrase now. I choose silence over reaction. Let it be seen. Let it reinforce the identity you're building. On SIG Rhythm, we don't teach motivation. We teach recalibration. This is about reprogramming how you move through power dynamics. When you detach correctly, you don't chase respect. Respect reorganizes itself around you. People sense it before they can explain it. Your calm becomes intimidating. Your absence becomes loud. Your restraint becomes authority. And the more disciplined you become with your emotional output, the more uncontrollable you become to those who once thought they had you figured out. Detachment is the foundation. Everything else, dominance, influence, immunity, builds on this. You are not disappearing. You are consolidating power. Remember that. And if you're still with me, reinforce it one more time in the comments. I am beyond control. Number 2. When they panic, you've won. The moment you detach completely, something predictable happens. People panic, not because you attacked them, not because you demanded anything, but because you removed certainty. Human beings are addicted to emotional patterns. They rely on knowing how you'll respond, how much access they have, how far they can push. When that pattern disappears, they experience loss of control, and loss of control feels like danger. This is where power quietly transfers into your hands. You are no longer reacting to the world is reacting to your absence. Machiavelli would call this strategic withdrawal. Dark psychology calls it disruption of emotional dependency. Either way, the result is the same. You become the variable no one can calculate. Understand this clearly. People do not miss you at first. They miss the control they had over you. They miss the predictability. They miss the emotional supply. When you stop responding the way you used to, they feel exposed. So they test, they provoke, they reach out indirectly, they manufacture urgency. Silence forces them to reveal their intentions without you saying a word. This is why restraint is dominance. You are gathering intelligence while giving away none. Every unreturned message, every delayed response, every calm reaction under pressure strips another layer of leverage from them. Most men collapse here. They confuse detachment with cruelty or fear being misunderstood. That need to be seen as good, fair, or reasonable is the final chain. Machiavellian power demands you sacrifice the comfort of approval for the advantage of autonomy. You do not owe anyone immediate access to your time, energy, or emotions. Stoic masculinity is the ability to sit with misinterpretation without correcting it. Let them misunderstand you. People reveal their character when they believe they're losing you, and what they reveal in that moment tells you everything you need to know. Watch closely during this phase. Some will grow respectful, others resentful, a few will become desperate. Desperation is the loudest confession of dependence. When someone cannot control you, they attempt to control the narrative. They gossip, they label, they provoke reactions in public because they can't get one in private. This is where your discipline matters most. Responding emotionally hands them oxygen. Withholding reaction starves the fire. Cold power psychology teaches a brutal rule. Whoever stays calm longest wins. You are not silent because you are afraid. You are silent because you are observing. Detachment also changes how people treat you long term. Once they realize emotional access is no longer guaranteed, their behavior shifts. They become more careful with words, more respectful with boundaries, more intentional with interactions. Why? Because scarcity creates value. Emotional over-availability destroys it. When your presence is no longer automatic, it becomes significant. You stop being background noise in people's lives and start becoming an event. This is not manipulation. This is self-respect weaponized through discipline. There is another layer most never reach. When you detach deeply enough, you stop seeking emotional reactions, even internally. You don't fantasize about being validated. You don't rehearse arguments. You don't replay disrespect. You observe your own emotions like weather passing through. This is advanced stoicism. You feel anger without acting on it, desire without chasing it, disappointment without broadcasting it. This internal detachment is what makes you truly untouchable, because even if someone wanted to control you, there is nothing to grab onto. No hooks, no exposed nerves, no predictable triggers. At this stage, people begin to mirror you. They slow down around you. They speak more carefully. They hesitate before testing boundaries. Power is contagious when it is quiet. Loud dominance invites challenge. Silent dominance dissolves it. Machiavelli warned that the strongest leaders are not those who announce authority, but those whose authority is assumed. Your detachment causes others to assume strength, composure, and self-mastery, even if they cannot explain why. Pause here. If you understand that silence is not absence but leverage, comment this now. My calm is my control. Let it mark your progression. Detachment also filters your environment. Weak connections fall away naturally. Manipulators get bored when they cannot provoke you. Energy vampires move on when there is nothing left to drain. What remains are those who approach you with intention, respect, and clarity. You no longer need to chase better people. Your standards quietly eliminate the wrong ones. This is power without confrontation, selection without explanation, authority without noise. And make no mistake, this will feel lonely at first. Detachment removes chaos, but it also removes constant stimulation. Many men mistake chaos for connection. They think intensity equals meaning. It doesn't. Peace feels unfamiliar when you've lived in reaction mode. But peace is where clarity lives, and clarity is lethal. From clarity, you choose instead of react. From clarity, you lead instead of follow. From clarity, you decide who has access to you and who never will again. This is why detachment is irreversible once mastered. You cannot go back to emotional slavery after tasting sovereignty. You will see manipulation instantly. You will feel pressure without folding. You will watch others scramble while you remain still. Not because you are superior, but because you are disciplined. Cold power is not aggression. It is restraint sharpened into authority. If this is resonating, comment this phrase now and claim it. I move in silence. On Psygrythm, we don't teach surface-level confidence. We teach psychological immunity. Detachment is not about becoming distant. It's about becoming selective, unreachable to manipulation, unreactive to chaos, untouchable to emotional games. And the more you practice this, the more obvious it becomes. People don't lose control over you because you push them away. They lose control because there is nothing left to control. And remember this above all else. The man who needs nothing cannot be dominated. Reinforce it one last time in the comments. I need nothing. Number 3, emotional starvation and the rise of authority. Once you have detached, the next phase begins quietly but decisively. Emotional starvation. This is where people feel your absence, not as silence, but as pressure. They are used to extracting reassurance, attention, reactions, or conflict from you. When that supply disappears, they don't suddenly become calm, they become restless. Restlessness exposes hierarchy. Those who were above you feel the loss of leverage. Those who were equal begin recalibrating. Those who were beneath you grow cautious. Power does not announce itself here. It rearranges itself around you. And the more still you remain, the louder that rearrangement becomes. Emotional starvation works because most people are unconsciously dependent. They rely on external feedback to regulate their self-worth. When you detach, you stop participating in that regulation. You are no longer the mirror that confirms their importance. Dark psychology teaches this clearly. The one who refuses to validate becomes the reference point. Suddenly, they are seeking your approval, not the other way around. This is not manipulation for attention. This is withdrawal of free emotional labor. And once people realize access to you is no longer guaranteed, their behavior sharpens. Notice how conversations change. People get to the point faster. They test less recklessly. They become more intentional with their words. Why? Because uncertainty forces self-awareness. When you are emotionally generous without boundaries, people grow careless. When you become emotionally scarce, people become precise. Scarcity refines behavior. This is why detachment is feared. It removes entitlement. Masculine stoicism demands that you never apologize for this shift. You did not become cold. You became disciplined. You did not withdraw out of fear. You withdrew to reclaim authorship over your inner world. At this stage, you must resist a subtle temptation, proving your strength. True power has no interest in demonstrations. The moment you explain your silence, you weaken it. The moment you justify your distance, you surrender authority. Machiavelli warned that power explained is power diluted. Let your consistency speak. Let your calm become your reputation. Let others explain you to themselves. Their confusion works in your favor. People respect what they cannot casually categorize. This is also where your internal dialogue changes. You stop asking, "How do they feel about me?" and start asking, "How do I feel about this?" That shift alone is dominance. You become the evaluator, not the evaluated. You are no longer auditioning for acceptance. You are assessing alignment. This psychological reversal is what separates men who command respect from men who chase it. Respect cannot be begged for. It reorganizes itself around standards. Pause here and mark this transition. If you understand that withholding emotional access is not cruelty, but sovereignty, comment this now. Access to me is earned. As emotional starvation continues, something else emerges. Projection. People begin projecting strength, mystery, even threat onto you. They fill the silence with their assumptions. This is why detachment amplifies presence. You are no longer diluted by overexposure. Overexposure kills authority. Mystery preserves it. You don't need to perform confidence when your restraint implies it. You don't need to dominate conversations when your silence controls the pace. This is cold power psychology at its cleanest. Minimal input, maximum psychological effect. You will also notice a reduction in chaos. Drama requires participation. Manipulation requires reaction. When you stop providing both, turbulence fades. Some relationships will end without confrontation. That is not loss, that is filtration. Weak bonds cannot survive discipline. Only structured, respectful connections remain. This is not loneliness. This is clarity. The noise leaves first, then the parasites, then the pretenders. What remains is space. And space is where authority grows. Now understand this clearly. Detachment does not make you passive. It makes you deliberate. When you do speak, it carries weight. When you do act, it feels final. People sense this shift instinctively. They hesitate before crossing you, not because you are aggressive, but because you are no longer reactive. Reactivity invites testing. Composure ends it. The man who can sit comfortably in silence while others fidget already controls the frame. This is where stoicism becomes lethal. You no longer rush to correct disrespect. You log it. You no longer confront betrayal emotionally. You adjust access. Consequences replace conversations. This is a Machiavellian principle disguised as maturity. Never warn repeatedly. Act once, decisively, and without drama. Silence after action is far more intimidating than noise before it. If this resonates, reinforce it now. Comment this phrase, "I observe, then decide." The longer you maintain detachment, the more people treat you as a fixed point. They begin checking themselves around you. They seek your reaction not because you demand it, but because it has become rare. Rarity creates gravity. You become the calm center while others orbit. And orbiting is a form of submission, whether they realize it or not. There is one final shift in this phase: emotional self-sufficiency. You stop needing outcomes to regulate your mood. Win or lose, you remain composed. Praise or criticism, unchanged. This is psychological armor. Once achieved, you cannot be manipulated through reward or threat. You have exited the marketplace of emotional bargaining. That is freedom, and freedom is the foundation of dominance. On Sigrhythm, this is the level we aim for. Not loud alpha theatrics, not performative confidence, but unshakable internal authority. Detachment is the gateway. Emotional starvation is the filter. Authority is the result. Number 4. The frame belongs to you. At this level, something fundamental changes. You stop entering other people's frames and they begin stepping into yours. A frame is the invisible psychological structure that decides who leads, who follows, and whose reality dominates the interaction. Most men live inside frames they didn't choose: family expectations, social pressure, emotional obligations, fear of judgment. Detachment collapses those borrowed structures. When you no longer react, you no longer validate other people's assumptions. And when assumptions are not validated, they die. This is where control truly shifts. You are no longer negotiating power. You are setting conditions. People sense this immediately. They feel it in your pacing, your eye contact, your silence. You are no longer rushed. You are no longer defensive. You don't hurry to explain yourself. Explanations are for those seeking approval. You already approved yourself. Machiavelli warned that the man who tries to be understood by everyone will be mastered by anyone. So you become selective with your words. You speak only when it advances position, clarity, or outcome. Everything else is noise, and noise is where weak men hide. As your frame stabilizes, others unconsciously adjust. They wait for your response. They mirror your calm. They hesitate before challenging you, not because you are intimidating, but because you are grounded. Grounded men are dangerous because they cannot be knocked off balance. Dark psychology reveals this truth clearly. The one who controls emotional tempo controls the interaction. You slow things down. You remove urgency. You force others to reveal their intentions by how they behave in the silence. This is not manipulation. This is mastery of self, and mastery of self always bleeds outward. Here is the rule you must internalize. Whoever is most willing to walk away owns the frame. Detachment gives you that leverage without threats or ultimatums. You don't say, take it or leave it. You embody it, and embodiment is more convincing than any statement. When people know you are fine without them, they behave better around you. When they know you are not, they test endlessly. Neediness invites disrespect. Independence enforces it. This is where many misunderstand Machiavellian philosophy. They think it is about deception or cruelty. It is not. It is about positioning. You are not manipulating people. You are removing the incentive for them to manipulate you. You are no longer emotionally cheap. And when access costs something, people behave accordingly. Masculine stoicism supports this perfectly. You don't complain about unfairness. You adapt. You don't announce boundaries. You enforce them through action and absence. Pause here and mark the shift. If you understand that walking away is power, comment this now. I can leave at any time. As your frame strengthens, you will notice a strange reaction in others. They seek your validation while pretending they don't. Compliments become indirect. Challenges become passive. Questions become probes. This is not hostility, it's calibration. They are trying to understand where they stand with you. Let them. You do not owe reassurance. Reassurance weakens authority. Consistency builds it. Stay consistent, calm, reserved, predictable in principles, unpredictable in response. This balance is lethal to manipulation. Another transformation occurs internally. You stop arguing in your head. Mental arguments are a sign of emotional entanglement. Detachment clears the mind. You see situations for what they are, not what you wish them to be. You stop romanticizing people. You stop excusing behavior. You assess, then you decide. Decision without emotion is clarity. Clarity without apology is power. This is why Stoics were feared. They could not be emotionally cornered. People who cannot control you will try to redefine you. They will say you've changed. You have. They will say you're cold, you're focused. They will say you're distant, you're selective. These labels are not insults. They are evidence. Evidence that your frame is holding. Never correct these narratives. Never defend your evolution. Power does not argue with interpretation. It allows others to live with it. At this stage, confrontation becomes rare, not because you avoid it, but because people sense it would not end well. Calm men end conflicts quickly, not with aggression, but with finality. You don't escalate emotionally, you end access, you withdraw presence, you move on. This is why detachment is feared more than anger. Anger can be managed, detachment cannot. If this resonates, anchor it now. Comment this phrase, "My presence is deliberate." You are also learning something crucial here. Not every battle deserves your energy. The need to win arguments fades. Winning arguments is for insecure men trying to prove value. You are building position, not points. Silence often wins more than words ever could. When you let others exhaust themselves explaining, justifying, or accusing, you retain the higher ground by default. They speak from emotion. You respond from choice. This is the level where respect becomes automatic, not universal, but irrelevant. You no longer need everyone to respect you. You only need alignment with your own standards. The world responds to that alignment naturally. Opportunities increase, drama decreases, authority consolidates. This is not luck. This is structure. Number 5. The final disappearance. At this stage, detachment stops being something you do and becomes something you are. You no longer consciously pull back. You no longer remind yourself to stay calm. Emotional sovereignty is now default. This is the phase most people will never understand, because from the outside it looks like distance, but from the inside it feels like absolute control. You are present, but not entangled, engaged, but not invested in outcomes that do not serve your standards. This is the final disappearance, not from people, but from their ability to influence your inner state. Here is the brutal truth. Most relationships survive on emotional dependency. When dependency dies, illusion dies with it. Some people will quietly fade away when they realize they can no longer extract reassurance, chaos, or validation from you. Others will cling harder. Both reactions confirm the same thing. Your detachment exposed the imbalance. Machiavelli would call this the moment when hidden power dynamics are revealed. Dark psychology calls it the collapse of emotional leverage. You don't need to confront either reaction. Time handles it for you. Detachment is patient, and patience is dominance stretched across time. You will notice something else now. People speak differently around you. They measure words. They hesitate before lying. They explain themselves without being asked. This is not because you intimidate them. It's because you no longer need them. Need is readable, and the absence of need unsettles those who rely on it for control. The man who does not need approval cannot be steered by praise. The man who does not fear loss cannot be threatened by withdrawal. This is immunity, psychological immunity. At this level, even your body language changes. Movements slow, posture stabilizes. Eye contact becomes neutral, unforced. You don't scan rooms for reactions. You don't lean into conversations. You don't fill silence. Silence is no longer awkward. It is a tool. People reveal themselves when they try to escape it. You let them. This is why the strongest men speak last, if at all. They already know who they are. They are listening for who others are. Pause here and claim this phase. Comment this now. I am immune. Another shift occurs internally. You stop seeking emotional highs. No more chasing intensity, excitement, or validation. You choose peace over stimulation. This is where many mistake detachment for emptiness. It is not empty, it is quiet. And quiet is where precision lives. Your decisions sharpen. Your instincts become reliable. You no longer rush into connections, arguments, or opportunities. You evaluate, you test, you proceed without attachment to outcome. This terrifies people who live emotionally exposed. The final disappearance also means this. You stop announcing exits. Weak men threaten to leave. Strong men leave without explanation. You no longer negotiate respect. You withdraw access. You don't punish. You remove yourself. Absence is the cleanest consequence. It creates reflection without conflict. It teaches without speeches. This is Machiavellian law in its purest form. Never reveal your next move. Let outcomes speak. You will be misunderstood here. Accept it. Misunderstanding is the price of autonomy. People who benefited from your old version will resent your evolution. They will call you distant, selfish, or cold. Let them. They are reacting to the loss of control, not your character. Correcting them serves no purpose. Power does not clarify, it continues forward. Masculine stoicism is the ability to walk alone without turning around to see who followed. If this resonates, anchor it now. Comment this phrase, "I walk alone." At this stage, manipulation no longer registers emotionally. You see it the way a chess player sees an obvious tactic, clearly, calmly, without adrenaline. You don't expose it. You don't react to it. You adjust position. Most manipulators collapse when they realize you are no longer emotionally reachable. They escalate or retreat. Either way, the game ends. Detachment does not make you cruel. It makes games impossible. You also stop overvaluing people. You see them accurately, strengths, weaknesses, intentions. You don't pedestalize. You don't demonize. You assess. This neutral clarity is terrifying because it cannot be influenced by flattery or fear. This is why Stoics were trusted as leaders. They were not ruled by mood. You become someone others rely on not for comfort but for stability. Notice how little you explain now, how little you defend, how little you react. That is not withdrawal, it is authority. Authority does not chase understanding. It commands space by existing within it. You are not silent because you have nothing to say. You are silent because everything you say must matter. Number 6, untouchable by design. At this level, detachment has completed its transformation. It is no longer a reaction to pain, betrayal, or chaos. It is structural, built into how you think, how you choose, how you move. You are untouchable not because you avoid conflict, but because conflict no longer has access to your core. People can disagree with you, challenge you, even oppose you, and still fail to disturb your center. That is the difference between surface confidence and true psychological authority. Surface confidence collapses under pressure. Structural detachment absorbs pressure and remains intact. You now understand a truth most never reach. Power is not in control over others, but in immunity from being controlled. Machiavelli hinted at this when he wrote that the strongest rulers were those least dependent on fortune or favor. Dark psychology confirms it. Dependence is the doorway through which manipulation enters. You closed that door, not angrily, not dramatically, quietly, permanently. At this stage, emotional triggers no longer pull immediate reactions. You still notice disrespect. You still recognize manipulation. The difference is timing. You respond when it benefits you, not when emotion demands it. Timing is power. Anyone can react instantly. Very few can wait strategically. When you delay, you gather information. You observe tone, intent, consistency. You see whether something is a mistake or a pattern. And when you do act, it is clean, measured, final. No emotional residue, no second guessing. That finality is what people feel most strongly, not fear, certainty. Your internal dialogue has changed as well. You no longer narrate your life emotionally. You don't ask why people behave a certain way. You ask what their behavior reveals. This shift alone dissolves frustration. Frustration comes from expectation. You removed expectation. You replaced it with observation. Observation turns chaos into data. Data turns emotion into clarity. Clarity turns decisions into inevitability. This is the architecture of cold power psychology. People now experience you as consistent, not warm, not cold, consistent. Consistency is more intimidating than intensity because it cannot be influenced in the moment. Emotional men can be steered. Consistent men cannot. This is why your presence feels heavier now. You don't fluctuate. You don't overcorrect. You don't chase balance. You are balance. Masculine stoicism at this level is not restraint, it is alignment. You also stop explaining yourself internally. The need to justify actions fades. You know why you move the way you do. That is enough. This is where guilt dissolves. Guilt requires emotional attachment to others' expectations. You outgrew those. You are no longer cruel, but you are no longer compliant. There is a difference. Cruelty seeks reaction. Compliance seeks approval. You seek neither. You seek coherence with your own standards. At this level, most social manipulation fails before it begins. Guilt doesn't work because you don't over-identify with others' emotions. Fear doesn't work because you are not dependent on outcomes. Praise doesn't work because you are not building identity on external validation. Threats don't work because you are not afraid of loss. This is not arrogance, it is internal independence. The marketplace of emotional bargaining has nothing left to offer you. Another shift becomes obvious. You no longer rush to fill silence. Silence is no longer empty space, it is territory. You allow conversations to breathe. You allow others to speak themselves into clarity or contradiction. You listen more than you speak. And when you speak, it lands. Not because you raise your voice, but because your words are not diluted by excess. Scarcity sharpens impact. People begin projecting leadership onto you without you claiming it. They look to you during uncertainty. They ask your opinion last. They pause before acting. This is not because you dominate, it's because you are stable. Humans instinctively gravitate towards psychological anchors. You became one. Anchors don't move with the tide, they hold. You also notice that your anger has changed. It no longer flares, it clarifies. You don't explode, you decide. Anger becomes information, not impulse. It tells you where boundaries were crossed. Then you adjust. No confrontation required, no emotional display necessary. You simply remove access or change positioning. This is consequence without chaos. Discipline without drama. At this stage, even your enemies behave differently. Open hostility fades. Passive aggression replaces it. Why? Because direct confrontation requires emotional courage, and people sense you are not emotionally reachable. Attacking someone who does not react is exhausting. Most will disengage. Those who don't expose themselves quickly. You do not need to hunt threats. They reveal themselves under pressure of your stillness. You are also less interested in being right. Being right feeds ego. Being effective feeds position. You choose effectiveness. You let others win small battles while you win structure. You let them talk while you move. This is Machiavellian strategy refined through stoic restraint. You are not trying to outshine anyone. You are outlasting them. There is a quiet loneliness here, but it is clean. It is not the loneliness of rejection. It is the solitude of self-sufficiency. You no longer need constant interaction to feel real. You are real in silence. This is where many turn back. They miss noise, they miss chaos, they miss emotional intensity. You don't. You've tasted control. You will not trade it for stimulation. This is what it means to be untouchable by design, not hardened, not closed, simply unreachable to manipulation, immune to chaos, and sovereign over your inner world. You are no longer defined by reactions. You are defined by choices. And from here forward, everything you build, relationships, power, influence, rests on something unshakable. Not dominance over others. Dominance over self. Number 7. The still point of dominance. At this stage, dominance no longer feels aggressive. It feels still. You have reached the point where nothing outside you moves faster than your inner world. Pressure does not rush you. Conflict does not speed you up. Opportunity does not intoxicate you. Loss does not destabilize you. You are no longer living inside emotional momentum. You are operating from position. This is the still point of dominance, where power stops being an action and becomes an atmosphere around you. Most people live reactively because they are internally noisy. Thoughts overlap, emotions collide, fear interrupts logic, desire distorts judgment. Detachment stripped that noise away. What remains is quiet clarity, and clarity is terrifying to anyone who relies on confusion to maintain influence. When you are clear, manipulation has nowhere to hide. Every tactic becomes obvious, every intention becomes visible. You don't call it out, you don't expose it, you simply don't respond to it. Non-participation is the highest form of rejection. At this level, you understand something deeply Machiavellian. Visible strength invites resistance. Invisible strength dissolves it. When people cannot locate your weaknesses, they stop trying to test you. When they cannot provoke emotion, they stop attempting dominance. When they cannot read your intentions, they grow cautious. Caution is respect in its purest form. Not admiration, not fear. Respect. You no longer seek leverage. You are leverage. Your time is limited. Your attention is selective. Your energy is controlled. And because of this, people begin orienting themselves around you unconsciously. Conversations shift direction when you enter. Decisions pause. Reactions slow. This is not mysticism. It is psychology. Humans synchronize with the strongest emotional signal in the room. Calm beats chaos every time. Your standards now do most of the work. You do not enforce them loudly. You live them consistently. Anyone misaligned self-selects out. Anyone aligned adapts. This is dominance without friction. Friction belongs to men who still negotiate their worth. You no longer negotiate. You accept or decline. You allow or withdraw. This simplicity is disarming because most people are accustomed to bargaining emotionally. You removed bargaining from the equation. At this stage, you also stop narrating your intentions to yourself. You act without inner debate. Inner debate is a sign of unresolved attachment. You resolved yours. When something does not align, you feel it immediately. No rumination, no justification, just recognition. Recognition is enough. You adjust course. This makes your life feel eerily clean. Few regrets, few emotional messes, few loose ends. Because detachment taught you to cut cleanly instead of bleeding slowly. You also understand that not all power dynamics are worth engaging. Some environments are broken by design. Some people are chaotic by nature. You do not attempt to fix systems that benefit from disorder. You exit them. You are not here to save anyone. Savior complexes are covert ego traps. Machiavellian philosophy rejects them entirely. Stoicism dissolves them. You are responsible for your conduct, not the emotional development of others. People who once intimidated you now feel small, not because they lost status, but because you no longer grant them psychological scale. Authority exists only where attention flows. You redirected yours inward. Anyone who cannot command your inner world cannot dominate you. Titles, noise, aggression, none of it penetrates. You see through it. And seeing through something is the end of its power. You will notice that your empathy has become sharper, not softer. You understand people more clearly because you are not emotionally entangled with them. You see motivations without judgment, fear, insecurity, hunger for control, desire for validation. You don't condemn these traits, you simply don't reward them. This is emotional intelligence without self-sacrifice, compassion without compliance, awareness without attachment. Another subtle shift appears. You no longer rush to prove competence. Competence does not announce itself. It reveals itself over time through outcomes. You allow others to underestimate you. Underestimation is strategic advantage. Machiavelli warned against revealing strength prematurely. You learned that lesson intuitively. Let people misjudge you. Their surprise works in your favor. At this level, you are also comfortable being the villain in someone else's story. Every boundary creates a narrative of rejection for those who benefited from your lack of one. You accept this without resistance. Resisting it would mean needing their approval. You do not. Stoic masculinity is the ability to stand firm while being misunderstood. History is shaped by men who were misinterpreted in their time. Your emotional range has not narrowed, it has deepened. You still experience joy, interest, attraction, purpose. But none of these experiences hijack you. You enjoy without clinging. You desire without chasing. You engage without losing position. This balance is rare. Most swing between obsession and apathy. You remain centered. Centered men are impossible to destabilize. You also recognize that control over self creates a ripple effect. Others become calmer around you, less erratic, less performative. Your presence regulates the environment. This is leadership without command, influence without coercion. People feel safer, not because you comfort them, but because you are predictable in principle and stable under stress. There is a point here where ambition becomes quieter. You still aim high, but without desperation. Desperation contaminates execution. You are no longer trying to outrun insecurity. You are building deliberately, step by step, without announcing timelines, without seeking applause. This patience compounds. While others burn out chasing urgency, you outlast them through structure. You also understand now why most people never reach this level. It requires letting go of emotional shortcuts. Drama, validation, conflict, excitement. These are stimulants for the insecure. You gave them up. In return, you gained clarity, endurance, and authority. This trade terrifies most people. They would rather feel intensely than be free. At the still point of dominance, you stop asking for permission from people, from circumstances, from fear. You move when it is time. You stop when it is not. You do not explain the difference. Explanation invites negotiation. You are done negotiating your inner world. This is not the end. It is stabilization. From here, whatever you build stands on something solid. No emotional debt, no reactive foundations, no hidden dependencies, just structure, discipline, and quiet control. And the most unsettling truth for those watching you from the outside is this: you didn't take power from anyone. You simply stopped giving it away. Number 8. When control becomes effortless. There comes a point where control no longer feels like something you maintain. It feels like something that maintains itself. You are not constantly correcting your emotions. You are not managing impressions. You are not guarding boundaries with effort. Everything aligns naturally because your internal structure is solid. This is where most people mistake you for being lucky, confident, or simply built different. They don't see the discipline beneath the calm. They don't see the countless moments where you chose restraint over release, silence over reaction, distance over drama. Control became effortless because you paid for it early. At this level, emotional pressure loses its urgency. You no longer feel compelled to respond immediately, explain yourself thoroughly, or resolve tension on someone else's timeline. Urgency is a tool of manipulation. Calm dismantles it. When others rush, you slow down. When others push, you remain unmoved. When others demand clarity, you give them time instead. Time reveals everything. People expose priorities, intentions, and weaknesses when they feel delayed. You don't need to interrogate. You let impatience speak for them. You also stop interpreting resistance as opposition. Resistance is feedback. It tells you where power is shifting. When people resist your boundaries, it means those boundaries matter. When they challenge your silence, it means your silence has weight. When they try to provoke reaction, it means your calm unsettles them. None of this requires response. Recognition is enough. Power does not argue with resistance, it absorbs it and moves forward. At this stage, your emotional economy is efficient. You no longer waste energy on hypothetical scenarios, imagined slights, or unresolved conversations. Mental clutter disappears when attachment dissolves. You don't replay interactions. You don't rehearse arguments. You don't fantasize about outcomes. You deal only with what is real, present, and actionable. This sharpens perception. You begin seeing patterns where others see chaos. You anticipate behavior without suspicion. You predict reactions without anxiety. This is not paranoia. It is clarity born from distance. You also stop confusing intensity with importance. Loud people fade quickly. Dramatic moments dissolve. What remains are consistent actions, repeated behaviors, and long-term alignment. You judge based on these alone. This makes your decisions clean. When you cut something off, it stays cut. When you commit fully. Indecision is gone. Indecision only exists where emotional attachment still negotiates internally. You resolved that conflict, you choose once. Others feel this decisiveness immediately. They sense that you do not bluff, that you do not threaten, that you do not overpromise. When you say something, it lands because it is rare and intentional. When you say nothing, it lands even harder. Silence from an emotional man is emptiness. Silence from a disciplined man is pressure. Pressure reorganizes behavior without force. Your sense of self has also detached from roles. You are not defined by status, approval, or comparison. You are not trying to win rooms. You are not competing for dominance. Competition implies insecurity. You already know where you stand. This makes you unusually difficult to provoke. Insults slide off. Praise does not inflate. Both are external attempts to influence internal state. Your state is self-contained. At this level, you no longer feel the urge to expose manipulation. Exposure is still a reaction. Silence renders manipulation ineffective without confrontation. When someone attempts emotional leverage, you don't confront the tactic, you remove the opportunity. Access is the only currency that matters now. You adjust access quietly. No drama, no explanation. This creates consequences without conflict. Conflict feeds ego. Consequence teaches reality. You also begin to see that many people mistake emotional transparency for honesty. Transparency without discipline is just leakage. You are honest, but selectively. You reveal what serves clarity, not what satisfies curiosity. You no longer confess emotions to relieve pressure. You process them privately. This makes your external presence calm and your internal world ordered. Order is the root of power. At this stage, you are no longer interested in changing people. You understand that influence is limited and overrated. People change when pain outweighs comfort, not when they are convinced. You do not position yourself as a teacher, fixer, or savior. You let others learn through consequence or remain unchanged. Both outcomes are acceptable. This neutrality protects you from frustration. Frustration is the tax of expectation. You removed expectation. You will notice that fewer people have opinions about you now. This is not because you disappeared, but because you became difficult to categorize. People speak most about what they think they understand. Ambiguity silences commentary. When you don't overshare, people lack material. When you don't react, people lack stories. When you don't explain, people lack narratives. You become quiet space in their mind. Quiet space creates unease, but also respect. Your patience has also deepened. You no longer feel behind. You no longer rush progress. You understand timing intuitively. Some things are not ready. Some people are not aligned. Some opportunities are premature. Waiting no longer feels passive. It feels strategic. You are comfortable letting things come to you because you are no longer chasing from lack. Chasing signals need. Stillness signals sufficiency. This is also where temptation changes form. Instead of emotional chaos, the temptation becomes complacency. Comfort can soften edges. You remain vigilant without becoming tense. Discipline does not require hardness. It requires consistency. You maintain routines. You protect solitude. You keep your inner world uncluttered. This is not obsession. It is maintenance. Power, once built, must be preserved quietly. At this level, you understand why detachment was never about becoming cold. It was about becoming sovereign. Sovereignty means you are responsible for your state regardless of circumstances. Good day or bad day, praise or criticism, gain or loss. You remain centered. Centered men are rare. Rare things are valuable. Value attracts gravity. Gravity pulls influence without force. You also see clearly now. People did not lose control over you because you withdrew affection or attention. They lost control because you stopped needing them to feel complete. Need is the root of all domination. Whoever needs less holds position. You reduced need to zero. What remains is choice, and choice is freedom sharpened into authority. You are no longer playing psychological games because you exited the board. Others may still maneuver, posture, and perform. You watch without participation. Observation without reaction is dominance without effort. The game cannot continue without your emotional involvement. This is why detachment ends cycles that confrontation never could. At this point, control is no longer something you think about. It is embedded in how you live. You move deliberately. You speak precisely. You engage selectively. You exit cleanly. There is no confusion, no emotional debt, no unfinished business weighing on you, just momentum built on discipline. And the final realization settles in quietly, without drama or celebration. You are not controlling others. You are uncontrollable. That is the difference. Number 9. The law of untouchable men. This is where the journey completes its circle. Not with triumph, not with validation, but with inevitability. You arrive at a place where control is no longer something you pursue or defend. It is simply the natural consequence of who you have become. At this level, detachment is no longer an action, a tactic, or a phase. It is law, your law. And laws do not argue, explain, or seek permission. They exist, and the world adjusts. You now see clearly why most people never become untouchable. It requires the death of emotional dependency, and most would rather remain emotionally alive than psychologically free. They cling to reaction because reaction makes them feel relevant. They cling to drama because drama makes them feel seen. You gave that up. In return, you gained something far rarer: internal authority. Authority that does not fluctuate with mood, approval, or circumstance. At this stage, people stop trying to dominate you altogether. Not consciously, instinctively. Dominance requires hooks: fear, desire, guilt, hope. You remove them all. There is nothing to grab, nothing to pull, nothing to threaten. Even admiration loses its power over you. Admiration is just another form of influence if you need it. You don't. Appreciation can exist without attachment. Praise can pass through without sticking. Criticism can arrive without penetrating. This neutrality is what makes you unreachable. You understand now that true power is quiet because it has no insecurity to announce. Insecure men signal strength loudly. Secure men conserve energy. You no longer posture. You no longer correct every misinterpretation. You no longer feel the urge to set the record straight. The record corrects itself over time through consistency. Those who matter observe. Those who don't, don't. Both outcomes are acceptable. Your sense of identity has simplified. You are no longer performing versions of yourself for different audiences. Performance is exhausting because it requires constant adjustment. You chose alignment instead. One internal standard, one code, one direction. This coherence creates an unmistakable presence. People feel it even if they cannot articulate it. They trust you more, not because you are friendly, but because you are stable. Stability is magnetic in a world addicted to volatility. You also see how emotional detachment reshaped your perception of time. You no longer live in urgency. Urgency is artificial scarcity created by fear. You operate in long horizons now. You think in months, years, decades. This long-view mindset alters decisions instantly. Short-term emotional wins lose their appeal. You choose what compounds. Relationships that drain instead of build quietly fall away. Habits that weaken instead of sharpen lose relevance. You are no longer optimizing for pleasure. You are optimizing for position. At this level, confrontation becomes obsolete. You don't stand your ground emotionally. You redesign terrain. You don't argue boundaries.